Hello, my name is Nandi and I am one of the educational psychologists at Cedarwood College. Recently, we had an assembly where we did a presentation on exam stress. We do a very similar presentation every year ahead of our June exams. And every year we get the same reaction from our children where they say, "Oh, ma'am, why are we doing another presentation on exam stress?" Well, the reason why we do it every year is because every year we have children who come to us and say, "Ma'am, I'm so stressed. Please help me. I don't know what to do." So we're hoping that with all of these presentations, you are able to take some pointers away that's going to help you in preparation for your exams, but also during your exams. This presentation was mainly done for our students, but I have added in a slide at the end to help you as parents as you support your children ahead of exams and also during exams. To start off this presentation, I want to start off with just defining what exam stress is. So this is the feeling of tension and worry that comes from test-taking situations. What we need to hold in mind is that stress can be a positive emotion, but it can also be a negative emotion. When it is a positive emotion, it motivates us to maybe study 3 weeks in advance instead of the night before. The problem is stress has a negative connotation with it, where we all think that this is a negative emotion. And a lot of the time it is, because it does hinder our ability to study, to plan ahead, to organize our thoughts and generally our life when we are stressed. So in essence, it does make it harder to reach our potential or to reach that goal that we have, that we set before exams. Maybe it's that 60% or that 90% that we're working towards. In terms of signs and symptoms of exam stress, we're needing to know what our triggers are. And often it's in the way that we present ourselves, the way that we think or what we are feeling that helps us know that we are stressed. So if we're able to identify these, we're then able to control a lot more, or at least feel like we're in control a little bit more. I've separated signs and symptoms into 3 different categories. So these are things that you need to be aware of. And the only way we're aware of these is to have a bit of self-awareness. The first one is physical signs and symptoms. So these are things like when you are feeling stressed, you have an increased heart rate, you feel a little bit nauseous, or you have tummy aches, you have headaches, or sometimes you have sleeping difficulties. The other one is behavioral signs and symptoms. So this is biting your nails or the skin around your nails. It's fidgeting or not being able to sit still. It's eating a little bit more or a little bit less during exams. So it's those mini trips to the fridge whilst we're trying to study. But it's also sometimes that feeling of wanting to be alone, so isolating ourselves. We often feel like we are alone when we're feeling stressed. I can guarantee you that everyone in the world has experienced stress in some form of their life, but we just present with it very differently. And when we find ourselves wanting to be alone, I want to encourage you to speak to your friends, speak to your parents, or even your teachers. We've all experienced stress. We all deal with it in very different ways, and we want to help you during this time. The other one is mental and emotional signs and symptoms. So these are things of distractibility or finding it difficult to concentrate, going blank before a test. Sometimes we feel very overwhelmed. We know our work, but as we go into the exam venue, we go blank. The reason why this happens is I always talk about the emotional brain and the logical brain. When we're in our emotional brain, we're not able to access that logical brain. And so if we're able to regulate our emotions, we're then able to access that logical brain where we've retained that information. We feel a lot of feelings of worry and anxiousness, and sometimes we have racing thoughts. When all of these signs and symptoms appear, they often appear right before exams. We need to be aware of them. If we're aware of them, we're able to control them. Causes of exam stress. It's not only the lack of studying that causes stress right before exams. There's a whole lot of other factors that we need to take into account that could influence our ability to prep for exams or even during exams, where we feel like this overwhelming sense of stress or anxiety. If we know the reasons why we are stressed, then we can identify strategies to manage it a little bit better and regain that sense of control. I've put these into 4 different categories as contributing factors towards exam stress. The first one is lifestyle. So generally adolescents don't get enough sleep. TikTok and Instagram and Twitter are a lot more inviting, a lot more entertaining than sleep. Our children should be getting at least 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night, and a lot of them are not. In terms of eating, sometimes we resort to junk food because it's a lot quicker, it's a lot easier. We need to be monitoring that. Not getting enough exercise, difficulties with time management. So we often say, I don't have time to do anything else. We need to be prioritizing that time. Make time to study, make time to relax, make time with your family, make time with your friends. That doesn't mean go out and party. That means that we just go and have a walk with our friend where we can just share the experience of the lead up to exams, but also during exams of I just feel so overwhelmed, and normalize those feelings of stress. The other one is information needs. So what I mean by this is the lack of exam taking strategies. We often think that we need to start at number 1 and go through each question until we get to the end of the paper. There are some questions in those papers that we don't know. And if we fixate on the questions that we don't know, we waste time. So what I always say to my kids is put stars next to the questions that we don't know, or highlight them and come back to it. Don't waste all that energy on questions that are very difficult. We can come back to that and rather get the marks for the ones that we do know. A lack of academic information. So are we asking enough questions during exams or before exams during class? So that difficult math sum that we've been struggling with quite a while, are we asking for help? Because if we're asking for help, then we can get the support that we need. Last point over here is a lack of knowledge on how to manage stress. So often we say that we need to practice mindfulness, or we need to regulate our emotions, especially when we feel all of these negative emotions. It's not only then that we should be practicing regulating our emotions. We should be doing that on a daily basis, because often when we only practice that during stressful situations, it can act as a trigger. The next one is poor studying styles. So the first one is inefficient studying techniques. So this is children who typically feel like they need to memorize the whole textbook as opposed to just the sections that their teacher said they need to know, or they highlight absolutely everything except for the words and, the, and is. This is not efficient. We need to be teaching our kids how to summarize. We need to be teaching them what is important to retain and what is not important. With inefficient studying techniques, we often find children who binge study. So this is studying the night before. In terms of this can be efficient for a good couple of years, but as we progress in terms of grades, so the content of work needing to be memorized becomes more. And so there we need to be practicing the technique of understanding the information as opposed to trying to retain all of the information. The next one is ineffective studying styles. So this is reading without understanding the content of work. It's not making study notes or not reviewing your work done from school. So here is where homework comes in. We think that homework is a punishment from our teachers. It's not. It is a way for you to consolidate the information that you've learned during the day, but also to figure out what are the questions that you're struggling with, so that when you go back to school the next day, you can ask your teacher and say, I struggled with this, please, can you help me? The fourth one is psychological factors. So this is the feeling of little or no control over the exam situation. It's negative thinking or self-criticism. So here it's example of I am not good enough, I can't do this, I'm going to fail, so why study? Irrational demands that we place upon ourselves. So this is if I get less than 90%, then I am worthless. It's irrational beliefs, such as if I don't pass, my friends or my parents will lose respect for me. It's rational thinking about exams and the outcomes. It's catastrophic predictions. So by this, I mean, for example, I will fail no matter what I do. So what is the point of even studying? We need to be aware of all of these thoughts, because if we're aware of them, we can change them. What has prepared me already for my exams? It's not only studying before exams, you've been doing it way before then. These are things like homework, assignments, tests, classwork, notes, and reviewing your study techniques during exams and what you've written in your books. What can help me before the exams? So things that you could do is print your exam schedule, stick it on the wall or a space in your home that you're going to be reviewing all the time so that you can prep in advance. Explore various study techniques. So we all learn in different ways. If we know the way in which we learn, we can then adapt our study techniques to then retain the information that's needing to be learned. This can be different for each subject. A study timetable, so this is going to help you to organize your time more efficiently. So have time for studying, for eating, for sleeping, for relaxing, having family time, also spending time with your friends, and most importantly, taking breaks. Set up your workspace beforehand, not during the time that you should be studying. So make sure that you have good lighting, that there's minimal distractions, and that you have everything you need. So make sure that you have a glass of water, you have a couple of snacks with you, make sure you've gone to the bathroom before you go to study, or otherwise we're going to constantly get up during the time that we've allocated for studying. And this is taking away from that time. And practice. Practice doesn't make perfect. It offers us the ability to become comfortable with a test-taking situation. What I always tell my learners is practice a test-taking situation at home. So what I mean by this is get past papers. Ask your teachers for past papers. Set a timer on your desk or have a clock in front of you. And if your paper is an hour, set the timer for an hour. And then do the test paper, see how far you get, see what technique works for you in getting through that test paper. And in doing that, recognize the signs and symptoms of stress. Acknowledge when you're feeling stressed. Take a very deep breath. And through that, the more exposure we have through practicing these papers, the better we are going to be at taking tests. What can help me during exams? So keep a consistent routine, get enough sleep, take each day one at a time. Usually we feel very overwhelmed because we think we've got 5 tests coming up next week and we need to try and prepare for all of them at once. It's impossible to do all of it at once. Some of us are better at multitasking than others, but sometimes we just need to take one task at a time. Breathe. So here I'm not saying just breathe in and out. I'm saying practice tummy breathing, where we get that air all the way to our lungs. When we do that, we are practicing mindfulness and we are regulating our emotions. The last thing is ask for help. You are not alone. Your teachers want to help you. Your parents want to help you. Your friends want to help you. You are not alone in all of this, so ask for help. We also can't read minds. I wish that was possible. So you need to be able to tell someone when it is that you are struggling. Parents, this is where you come in. So when it comes to helping and supporting your children before exams and during exams, these are the do's and don'ts that are going to help you to support your child. Part of the don't section is don't tell them that if they don't study, they will fail. This contributes to those negative beliefs. Don't tell them that if they were to put in more effort, that they can do better. Sometimes they're avoiding studying because it's actually quite hard for them. And this is where we got to recognize that sometimes they need a little bit more support. They're going to resist it initially. This is normal. They want to be independent. They are adolescents. This is where we got to offer our assistance and let them know that if they want it, it is there. Tell them that they are lazy. This doesn't work. They're not lazy. They are avoiding and they are resisting. I'm not negating the fact that sometimes they are lazy, that they just want to sit in front of the laptop or the iPad or in front of the TV. But if we have a study timetable, we're better able to manage that time of relaxation versus studying. Create a timetable and schedules for them. They need to be independent. This is a skill that we are teaching them. So don't do it for them. Rather let them do it and help them. So this is where the do's come in place. Help them to create a study timetable. Get their input. When they are doing it themselves, you are getting their buy-in. Limit screen time. So we should be only having 2 hours of screen time a day. We should be reducing this during exams and tests. Help them to manage their time more effectively. So here we have boundaries in place. Stick to those boundaries. It helps them to manage their time, and it also creates a realistic expectation for how to be efficient in time management. Check in with them. Here I'm not saying, are you okay? What I'm saying is check in with them and say, you know what, how are things going? Keep their routine relatively the same. Don't do big changes. Give warning if something does change in their routine so they can prep for it. Tell them that they just need to do the best that they can, and tell them that you love them and that you are proud of them. We often take this for granted. Our children need to hear this, and they need to feel that they are doing the best that they can, and that no matter what happens, we love them and we will support them. I want to wish you all the best of luck in preparation for your exams. Breathe, and you have got this. Good luck.